Welcome to another episode of Season 2 of the Panjwai podcast. As always, you can find our episodes on all podcast platforms, as well as YouTube and Facebook for the video episodes. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button on your platform of choice, and if you enjoy what you hear, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a nice 5-star review.
If you want to support the podcast financially, we've set up a few ways for you to do so this season. You can become a patron by hopping over to patreon.com/thepanjwai podcast and sign up for a small monthly donation. If you want to make a one-time donation, you can find us on Venmo at the Panjwai podcast. And last but not least, we've got a small selection of merchandise in our store. So if you head over to thepanjwaipodcast.com and click on the store tab, you'll see stickers and other merchandise, and who knows what might come down the pipeline. So remember, on all three platforms, that's the Panjwai podcast, PANJWAI podcast. Thank you.
I'm telling you, man, I don't remember much. I remember like little bits and pieces here and there.
All right, so we are sitting here today with what rank did you retire at, Len?
Tech Sergeant.
Tech Sergeant Leonard Anderson, who was a military working dog handler with the United States Air Force in Panjwai for an unfortunately brief moment of time in 2012.
For a couple minutes.
Couple minutes. What was the number of patrols again?
At 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
I actually found my little book. And I was reading it the other day, and I'm like, oh, I remember that. Okay, cool. It's only a couple pages.
Yeah, Leonard was he was with us at Sperwan Ghar when he got hurt. So he's going to talk to us today a little bit about his experiences leading up to that deployment, his brief experiences on the deployment before he won the leg lottery or the hand lottery.
The hand lottery.
The hand lottery.
I was handpicked.
Handpicked
by some Afghanis.
Oh man, that's good. But yeah, so Leonard, thank you for agreeing to join us and tell us a little bit about yourself and your story. Completely selfishly, I'm a huge dog guy mainly as a result of what working with you and the other K9 team. So I thank you for making me a weirdo living by myself in a cabin in Alaska. So
with 2 dogs.
with 2 dogs.
With 2 dogs. Yeah.
Two dogs of the breed of which
I was about to say, and 2 Dutches of all that. Like
yeah. So thank you for that, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me in Afghanistan too. It was a blast. We had a good time.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
You're not wrong.
You called and I came, and
and it was a blast.
The rest was a blast.
It was a couple blasts, but
it was a couple blasts. Yeah. I feel better getting taken out by the IED than the tree shrapnel. 100%.
That's true. Yeah, you don't. That's not how you want to go home.
No, that's all I saw was a tree stuck in a tree, and I'm like, I would hate to go home with that story.
So Len, the way we kind of usually open these things up, we give you a couple minutes to give us a very brief background about why you decided to join the Air Force, how you ended up becoming a K9 handler, and kind of like that short track of events that kind of led up to you ending up at Masum Ghar and realizing you're going out to Sperwan Ghar. So 5 minutes or so, just kind of give us the brief background.
5 minutes. Let's do a 5-minute speech real quick.
Hey man, you're on the elevator and you're pitching it to a movie agent.
Ooh, now we're talking. Wait, we've already been down that road. We're not. No. No, like you said, I was in the Air Force for roughly 10 years. I think when we got over there in 12, I was just hitting right near my 10-year mark. And so I started off security forces, 2002. To be blunt, like I've always been with all my other interviews, when they ask, why did you join? I didn't have a specific, I was a bad kid. I just put it that way. So I didn't even know what I was getting into. My dad, they just kind of kicked me in the door and were like, hey man, this is your option, or you know where you're going.
Hmm.
So ran with
At least
it.
you ended up in the Air Force, not the Marine Corps or the Army.
Well, he
so.
was prior Air Force.
Okay.
He gave me a little bit of direction.
Yeah.
However,
I was going
you
to
know,
say,
when
I think you're supposed to end up as 11 Bravo when that happens to you.
you know, that's what I got accused of a lot. But no, he pushed me that way, and I didn't know. I was ignorant to the entire armed forces. I didn't know anything past what you saw in like commercials or whatnot. So, little did I know that I would love it. I'd be good at it, and I'd want to make a career of it, and I did. So, joined security forces, where I kind of did a lot of like nuclear convoys for about 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had a lot of cool training, but we weren't deploying.
Right.
And at that point, that was my focus. Was I wanted to get. That's why why else get trained?
Sure.
There's no reason to do it if you ain't gonna use it. So asked the quickest way to get to Afghanistan, and I was in my window. They told me K9. K9 has combat deployments, blah blah blah, and so I'm like, cool, sign me up. And I didn't know a thing about dogs. I didn't know anything about the breeds or nothing. And it clicked, man. I mean, I went to school and just it made sense one day. Like, the psychology of it. I'm sure I had unorthodox ways, especially as compared to some others. And I loved it. I'd already had the gun training. Now I had the dog training.
Sure.
Put it all together. And, my entire focus during the whole K9 career field was deployment minded. I trained for deployments and was ready at any time. I went once in 2007 to 2008, and I was at Bagram for a little while. And then 2012, 2011, I PCS to Alaska. 2012, I was deployed to Kandahar, where I went through a bunch of stuff, and then kind of like some pre-training, making sure you knew what you were doing in the area, kind of some of the ROEs for what you're to expect, kind of out on patrol, distractions and whatnot, just to make sure you're good to go. And lo and behold, I'd actually promoted, so I was waiting on a promotion when I got back, and the senior chief there just pulled me in and said, "Hey man, you're not staying here. You're headed to Masum Ghar." I'm like, okay, what's that? He's like, well, there's a reason you haven't heard.
Had you heard anything about it? Yeah.
Right. That's exactly. Have you heard anything? Well, yeah, we got a guy coming back for, a couple weeks to kind of decompress. And I'm like,
it's a good sign.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, all right, cool. I ain't heard anything about this. And as soon as he got back, he's like, oh, yeah, you're going to take over that place. Ooh, good luck. Like, what am I getting into? And
to kind of like set the background here, first off, the canine community in general is really, it's not like a separate community between the different branches. They're kind of just one group.
Yeah.
They're all trained in the same place. They're all certified by the same trainers and handlers in San Antonio. It's an Air Force program. So if you're in the Army and you're a dog handler, you go to an Air Force school to get certified.
Yep.
But at Masum Ghar, it was one kennel. And so you had Navy dog handlers, Air Force dog handlers, Army dog handlers.
I think we had 8. Or at least we were slotted for 8, I believe. And we had 6 or 7 because, I mean, not to sound morbid, but they kept getting hit.
They did.
Because of Panjwai,
That was a dangerous year for dogs and handlers. I mean,
it was.
Brazos, I pretty much replaced Brazos.
Brazos, Brodsky.
Yep.
Both lost their lives. Williams lost his dog.
Williams. I remember Williams, man. That was a good dude.
Williams
Still talk to him every once in a while.
Good. He's a great
Other
dude.
than the fact that he's a ginormous human being.
he is the only person that could get away with having a 120-pound German Shepherd as a working dog
when
in
he told me
Panjwai.
what happened, I was like, wow. And then when we first met, it was actually funny because, I was a big kind of gym rat. He was a big gym rat. We both played softball, and we had actually wound up playing with similar people that we had just never met.
Yeah.
Man, we were talking shit from day one to each other. It was good, man. I didn't know he'd replace me out there, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Williams was a good dude, and for our audience who aren't Williams' dog Dynamite was killed in an IED blast, essentially saving Williams by taking the blast himself.
And it was out of nowhere, right? Like in the back of the patrol, just kind of.
I don't remember the specifics, honestly, and I don't want to speak to it. But I do remember that. I do remember the part where the dog stepped on it. The dog might have even have indicated on it, and it might have been an offset charge.
Could have been, yeah.
I remember something along those lines. The dog was in front of him.
A little bit. Yeah.
And basically took the brunt of the charge, and that was a bad year for dog handlers, man. I mean,
not just dog handlers though. It was a bad year for.
Well, yes.
Anybody in that spot, like it was.
Yeah, that's true. But when you look at it statistically, I mean, there's only 8 dog handlers, in that part of the country, and I can
20%.
Count 4 of them that either the dogs or the handlers were killed.
Yeah, 50%.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I mean, even when I was going out there to take over, that's one of the things they told me. They were like, "Look, you're going to be allotted for this, but this is the history behind it. So you're probably only going to have this many dogs." And so technically, I didn't really even have to go off base,
right?
But that wasn't going to be any fun. So I was like, "How long do I have? 2 weeks? Cool. I want to go. Just put me in every little spot that these guys are going to go. So at least when I get there, I can be like, your dog is going to be best suited, for this area, for these type missions. You're over here, updated training age, so that we can work on exactly what we're looking at in the ground.
Yeah.
Then if they change their ROEs, it's change our aids,
Right.
But.
Well, that's important too, is the way that we utilized the handlers was borderline abusive. We would be like, we would take one and be like, hey, you're going to spend 3 weeks at Sperwan Ghar, and then you're going to get like a week of break at Masum Ghar, and then we're going to send you to Mushan, and then you're going to come back, and you're going to take a break at Masum Ghar, and then you're going to go to Talocan.
Yeah, then you're going to get an air assault randomly in the middle of nowhere.
And then there'd always be guys that would go out and do stuff like that, like those big battalion missions, or they'd loan them to SF, or like all this crazy shit. Like those dudes never got comfortable. They were always in a place for a couple weeks, and then they're moving. Just I think part of it was to spread the experience out because it was so different in each area. And some areas were safer than others, just being blunt. But man, those dudes were always on the move. Like
Yeah, I mean, even me being new in country, when I got to talking, I don't remember exactly which LT it was. I told him flat out, like, yo, you got to be an idiot if you think these dogs are going to roll around for 8 hours and be doing their thing.
They can't.
Like, I'll keep her up there as long as I possibly think that it's safe for me to walk behind her, basically.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you can't do anything. You really can't do anything else. I mean,
that's a good point. The dogs need breaks too.
Oh yeah,
like they could only work so hard and go.
And if you push them, that's the problem. Is people weren't realizing. You got to think mission orientation as far as, okay, am I out here for a day or 2? Am I out here for 3 or 4? How hard do I need to run this dog so that we can get back tomorrow? How hard do I need to run this dog so that they're not waking up in the morning and just they're done, and we got a whole day without a dog.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of factors. It's kind of like the water thing, man. I was always carrying extra water, come back, and I was looking at my Ozzy like, bitch, you gonna drink some water? Like, I'm tired of carrying these things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
now, when did you? When were you assigned to ASA? And I'm sorry, it's ASA, AZZA.
Yeah, AZZA. It's actually just sitting over there up on the shoving unit.
Hi, Asa.
What was it? Yeah, right. She's out there just chilling. She got her own little corner. It was probably 6 or 7 months before I left. Maybe a year tops.
Okay.
So I mean, we had time, but
sure,
we were also in Alaska in negative, 20 degrees at the time because we got the tasking like midwinter.
Oh wow.
Yeah. and then rolled out to Vegas in May.
And Vegas was like environmental training. Was that the kind of idea?
Yeah, that's where we had kind of our pre-deployment type training.
Okay.
One of them, you
Sure.
know, like you said, all the branches kind of fell within. They also had a training place out in Yuma, ran by the Marines, which was, I really wanted to go to that course, check it out.
Right.
Never had an opportunity, but I heard it was a jam-up course.
And now were these dog-specific courses, or were
Yeah.
they? Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
And the Marine, the thing with the Marine is, you know how the Air Force don't like to fail people.
Everybody gets a trophy.
Right, everybody gets a trophy. So when we were sending some of these guys out to Yuma, and you know the Marines, they don't give a fuck. I mean,
They'll fail.
you're a
you.
no-go. You know, you're not good enough to go. Well, I don't think the Air Force realized how serious that is. And so they were, instead of being like, oh, yeah, okay, maybe we need to reevaluate this, we'll do our own thing over here and they'll pass. And that's why I think you were getting some of the watered down talent, you know, making it out that way that
Sure.
may have had no business being outside the wire.
I mean, and it's interesting you mentioned that. I mean, there was a wide range of capabilities that rotated in and off of Sperwan Ghar. And we've mentioned it a couple times. Without question, the best handlers we had were the Navy and the Air Force handlers.
Oh, yeah.
They were more consistent.
Well, you
Their
had
dogs
you
were
had
more
Jones,
reliable.
man. That's not fair. You had a superhero
That's
Navy
true.
dude.
Yeah, we had Jones, we had Roy Ball.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I have
Salazar. I mean, really good
Salazar.
handlers, man.
Fucking
pretty little
Salazar.
squad going.
Yeah, we got lucky on the dog handlers, man.
Mhm.
Brazos.
Well, I
Badass
think
dog
whoever was sending them out that way probably knew. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so.
now,
Well,
granted,
and-
I do know that, you know, there were a couple from that, well, whatever you want to call it, rotation that they didn't make it. They got sent back.
Mm-hmm.
There were.
And I
Yeah,
mean,
we
to
inherited
be
a
honest
couple.
with you, I was watching them like, bro, no offense, I don't know how you made it this far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and our company commander. I mean, if a handler team came to us and they fucked up and they created a problem or they weren't doing the work, he wouldn't take them back.
No.
That's good.
So, I mean, I know that happened at least once where a handler basically tried to quit in the middle of a mission and asked for a medevac.
I know
like,
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, we keep names out, but you know, tried to get medevac in the middle of a mission. We're like, get the
Yeah.
fuck out of here!
Yeah,
No
man.
way.
Getting fucking shot at.
I never saw him again.
Nah, same.
Yeah,
Thankfully.
I know.
Yeah,
And he was armed.
I was gonna have to deal with that after I took
Yeah.
over too. I was already like pre-briefed into that situation, so
Yeah.
I'm like,
Uh,
oh, this ought to be interesting. So I was kind of curious when I got out there the first couple of days, like, all right, I don't know who my relief, like, I don't know who was here before me. I don't even know all the people in my, you know, in the kennels.
Yeah.
mhm.
And so I was waiting to see what kind of reaction I got when I got boots on ground there. Like, all right, either these guys had a good handler and we're going to be cool, or they had a really crappy one. And I'm going to hear about it. And then I'm going to have to hear about it. Like any little thing I do, somebody's going to be like, hurry the fuck up, dog handler. Like, ah.
Well, it was good that you were Air
But-
Force. That gave us that was you had you step up against against the Army handlers. And I feel like because we always had two at a time, or we usually had two at a time.
Yeah.
So usually they would have like a really strong handler with a learning handler.
Yep.
And sometimes we got like the double whammy. You get Salazar and Jones. You got freaking two rock stars trading off back and forth.
And you can't,
but-
you don't know which one to send who.
Right. But yeah, we were really fortunate.
Yeah,
But-
it was. I was interested to see the route I was going to take, taking over as far as dealing with, because we were getting new guys in, so I'm sure there's going to be a heavy rotation of people leaving.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I was, man, I mean, I get it. Everybody makes mistakes or has this, but if I see any little, like, I was a hard ass dude. I didn't know any other way to put it. I mean, it's just, I was a hard, if I wasn't the best, like I told Jones many times, because I knew what him and his dog could do,
Mhm.
I was still going to be there the next day to tell you I'm beating you today. And as long as I saw that mentality with the others,
Sure.
or, that spirit, I'm cool with you. We can work, put you in the field, let you, do what you're here to do. But man, I hated lazy and yeah.
So what was kind of your, because I mean, you were hard charging from the minute you heard about this deployment, and not just for your own preparation, but for Oz's as well. So what were some of the things that you were doing for her? And because she was an older Belgian Malinois. So you had
six.
She was six or
six. That's right.
Okay. So what were you doing to get her ready?
We had her. Man, I had her because it was cold. So even running on the ground out there in the snow and the ice it's
hard on the pads.
Yeah, it's rough on the dog's pads and everything else. So what I would do is I would take her to the community center when we were on duty, or even sometimes I'd come in on the weekends. And there were two things that I was worried about with her. One was her gunfire. Mm-hmm. She had some gunfire issues before me, and those are issues that seem to really engrave themselves in animals, especially from a young age if they're not taken care of. And she had some issues. So I had that to worry about, and I had her conditioning, because I knew we were about to step into like one extreme to the next.
Right.
And so I'd run her on a treadmill. I got some inclines going, and I kind of kept pace of, trying to work her hard enough like we had been on, a mission that she was ready and, she could get through that part of it. So I'd run her and then maybe take her over and do some training right after. Maybe even bring her back and run her, depending on what kind of training I did, put her up, address whatever, sometimes I would come in on the weekends, man, and I would start looking up a lot of hunting dog stuff to get over the gunfire. And I would ride around, play CDs and stuff from my iPhone, just random gunfire shots all over. People probably thought I was crazy riding around in a patrol car. But it is what it is. Like she had issues that I needed fixed. And anytime they were shooting a 50 out on the range or anything, I would go park the truck out there and just let it rock.
Let her get used to it.
Yeah.
It's a good call, man. It's a good call, because when the gunfire would kick off, some of the dogs couldn't handle it. Understandably, they'd freak out.
And she honestly, she had a harder time handling it.
Mm-hmm.
Me and her went to a couple blows a couple times. Just she was spunky, man. She wanted to fight.
She was spunky.
She wanted to fight. She even bit me one time in training. We came up over a ridge, and I guess she had alerted on whoever was down in the washout area. Mm-hmm. I wasn't catching it. I just thought we were on like a training patrol, kind of getting endurance up. And she kind of threw an alert, and I'm like, what are you doing? Well, as soon as we peaked the ridge, now this is training. Boom, there's a dude right there shooting blanks up at me. So I drop. The guy behind me starts lighting him up, and she turns around and takes a chunk out of my arm because I wouldn't let her go and bite the dude. And I was like,
that's common with those breeds. Mine's bit me for the same reason.
Yeah, it's a stress thing, and they, it's a communication thing at the end of the day. But I was just looking at her like, so you thought biting me was just going? I was just gonna be like, all right, dog off leash, go attack. Come on, baby. Like, what's wrong with you?
Well, it's really cool that you had the foresight to do that kind of training. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of dog handlers that moved into those deployments, because those were unique deployments for dog handlers when they were going on patrol with infantry every mission, instead of guarding the checkpoints or inspecting vehicles and stuff like that, which is kind of the normal mission set for military.
Yeah, well, unless you're doing hard mission. I mean, unless you're
with SOF and stuff like that.
Right, and you're doing real hard knocks on something, or you got mission oriented stuff. But just
but this idea of going out on normal infantry patrols, like covering 10, 15 miles a day, like that just wasn't something that the military working dog community was training for as a whole at that time. So, and it was obvious with a lot of our handlers that they weren't. That wasn't in their mind before they deployed, and they're struggling to catch up the whole time.
Well, so we train the way we train our dogs was, it's not tracking. Some of them we did have combat trackers, but
sure,
for the most part, it's air scent, and whatnot. So the minute we get in country, we had not heard, you got a minesweeper ahead of you,
right?
And we're like, wait, what? Because the dogs are not used to bracketing with someone up in front of them. They're not used to having to operate, with noises or things. So it changes the way you go about doing any type of search, because now, granted, I know how the dogs are proofed and trained, and, they can tell the difference between human and, bomb scent, but they're not used to coinciding it at the same time with the adrenaline and everything else going. So, it was really a crapshoot at first until they got, hopefully the dogs got used to seeing someone up there.
But it's interesting you mentioned that, because the way that they train dogs to detect things, they're all over the place. Like you said, they're bracketing the smell and they're moving. But in that environment, we couldn't just let dogs run loose because they'll step on something. Like, so it was kind of like, I'm sure it was confusing for the dogs to have to change their behavior, be like, no, I have to just smell in front of me. I can't smell the air. I have to be focused directly in front of me.
Right. And well, that's why I think Barry was so good, to be honest.
Love that dog, man.
Yeah, bro. Barry was trained as SSD originally.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and I don't know how he washed out, what washed him out or whatnot. Jones had told me, but somehow he washed out. Well, SSD, they trained that dog, nose to the ground.
Right. And what does SSD stand for again?
Specialized search detection dogs, I believe.
Okay.
I think it's SSDD. I don't know if they still had a school. It was Army ran. It was like a separate little program that they were running within. It was basically just advanced detection, basically a lot of labs and stuff like that going through it. Most of your hunt breeds were going through it.
Weird.
But yeah, so he, once he told me that and I watched him work, I was like, ooh, okay, I see now. Like that's why you guys are definitely doing so well out here, because once you train a dog to do that, he don't care about anything in front of it. He's focused down.
Right.
Other than his periffs and whatnot. And I think, it's not something you couldn't train out of the dog. You couldn't train into the dog, had enough time. But had we had the information before, I would have done all kinds of crazy patrols training with someone in front of me. Especially when you start talking about taking fire, returning fire. Ozzy was close to that dude. He was closer to that dude than it was to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, I always let her play and let her sniff and, run around. I wasn't that type to not socialize my animal. And I was hoping that would pay dividends, God forbid something happened. It did.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
But, and yeah, I watched the video. She was actually crazy well behaved considering, all that was going on. I was like, man, she's just kind of letting everybody run around.
Yeah.
That's cool. Licking the lieutenant's bone and the helicopter and all that stuff. Like, she was, man. I watched that part. She was licking on his bone coming out. You heard him in the back. You're like, I was like, quit. Bone, bro. Like,
I'm surprised they didn't muzzle her on the aircraft.
I probably couldn't find it. Because, I don't know where any of my stuff, the helmet was like I don't know, I guess like a scene out of a cartoon, or it's just boop.
Yeah, it was gone.
And it went away.
Yeah.
So, but I did watch too. I tried to get up and walk out of the helicopter. They didn't put that in there. I got to my knees. I got all the way up to my knees, and I reached up, and I was about to stand up right at the door. We were already off the ground, and the medic had to like wrestle me back down and sit on top of me and everything. Like, how did I have strength to do that?
Preview for our audience. Now they're all interested. Like, what do you mean? What was he talking? Why is there a helicopter? Why are there bones being like, what is going on? Stand by. That's coming. It's coming soon. It's called Tarantinoing. It's a real thing.
Right. We're starting from the back.
But yeah, no, that's actually a really good point. So again, thank you for turning me into a weird dog person, but having the dogs on the COP and on the patrols was so cool, man. Especially the ones that were friendly enough to be pet, which all of them were except for Sean's dog. Sicario was vicious. But Braces.
Oh, Brazos. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I never met the dog.
Yeah, his dog was...
There was another Sean that actually wound up getting hurt from...
Jeez.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't Afghanistan related. I think he got in a motorcycle accident or something when he got home.
Okay.
So...
But yeah,
there's a lot.
But having them around, be able to pet them, be able to like play with them when you came back off a mission, bring them like my family would mail me treats so I could run over to the kennel and give the dogs treats and toys. Like that for me made that entire experience much easier.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, I would emphasize that to not just for combat reasons and smells and all that good stuff, but I mean, you guys were over there for a grip, bro. Like, the Navy and the Air Force, for the most part, we were doing our little 8-9 months, and rotating out. But y'all were, 15 months is a long time to be in there dealing with that craziness.
Yeah. We were fortunate to be a 9-monther. We were one of the first 9-month deployments. Okay. So I thank God, because 15 months at Sperwan Ghar would have been...
I don't know how you would have... I don't know who would have made it out of there with like sane.
Nobody's done it. So
I mean, that's very true.
They abandoned the year-long deployments right before us, and the Canadians did 8-month deployments. So I don't think anybody's ever had to spend more than 9 months on Sperwan Ghar.
That's good though, because when it first kicked and they were doing those 15 months, I was like, oh,
dude,
long time and some shit.
It's too much.
It's
too much.
It is.
And they knew that was too much, but they had no choice. I mean, they had a choice. They could have just not done it. But they felt like they had no choice, so they just, fuck these guys. It's fine.
Well, I mean, even the rumor had it that once your soft guys started bringing in their own dog teams and whatnot, they were damn near leaving their dogs over there and just rotating the people.
Really?
Until the dogs were,
broken, man.
Yeah, pretty much like spun out, and then they would rotate the dogs. Now, I don't know if that's 100% true, but that was...
I hope that's not true.
That was the rumor I got, but you got to remember, these guys are selecting super dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you're talking about Islas on steroids that can
even
handle...
still, man, I mean, I've worked
there's
with
only so much psychological.
Super dogs, and they all have their limits.
They do.
Perpetual...
And we saw one at, actually at Eglin. I went down there to, I think it was judge a canine competition after I was hurt, and they got 7th group down there now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And one of their dogs, Roy, I think his name was, same thing, man. He'd had too many deployments, had all kinds of crazy stories and background, and basically the SF guys had worked out a deal with Eglin there, the Air Force guys, and he basically became an Air Force dog just because he couldn't keep up with the ops tempo anymore. So
yeah,
cool dog.
Yeah,
crazy stories. I mean, he'd had a lot of crazy stuff. I think like bites and all this different stuff. So,
well, I think everyone's pretty fascinated by working dogs. Like the use of them in like the high profile soft missions like Neptune Spear and the one that grabbed Baghdadi. I should have worn I have a shirt with Conan on it. Should have worn it. Mm-hmm. I screwed that up. So I mean, the super high profile.
I've been J-Bad where they jumped off for the Bin Laden thing.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. That was Cairo, or I think on that one, but was it? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It was a dog. But people are really passionate about these things, so it was probably only inevitable that at some point somebody would try to do like a documentary on military working dogs, and it just so happened that they decided to try to make one while we were all there. And you said you actually heard about that whale before we did when you first got to Kandahar, right?
I did, yeah. Like it was whispers of some documentary crew going around. I didn't know anything of it because it just wasn't my focus. So, yeah. Because
I remember we were at Sperwan Ghar and someone made a comment, these fucking Animal Planet people coming by. And we thought, we're like, are they like making fun of like hippies or something? Or like, is like Oh, we had no idea what they were really
think,
talking about.
Air
We
Force
thought
has Animal Planet MOS and
right, something like that.
Walking around,
but they're like, no, seriously, there's a documentary crew coming. We're like, what?
What? Yeah, I mean,
I'm like,
very perplexed.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, they're gonna go on missions with us. We're like,
this is real life.
Missions where?
This is really happening.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you walked into your guys' building out there, and the first thing you notice is the ceiling is all black with footprints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of makes you go like, what the hell happened here, bro?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did the world like kind of do a little for a
that
couple
is
days out here?
OG from when the Taliban owned that schoolhouse.
I heard
so
that. That's what somebody told me a story about it.
So it was a Taliban's way of marking it as
Yeah.
a place
Like
with bad
that, yeah.
spirits and it's kind of the Taliban version of bad juju.
I know,
Put
and y'all were
footprints on the
sleeping in
ceiling
it.
Was bad juju.
Y'all were sleeping in it.
We were
I
in the
was
upside
so
down.
I was so happy I wasn't sleeping in that building. I was like,
Bro, it was we had a concrete building. I'd slept in that if it was full of ghosts.
You're
And
right.
If I woke up
You're
and there
right.
was like a little girl like crawling up on my bed, like a little girl ghost, they're like, "Hey man, at least I'm not gonna
Just
get mortared tonight.
come on in,
Make
sweetie."
yourself comfortable."
That's true. Because I think my second night there, all I heard was tink, 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 tink. And I'm like, the hell's that? I went walking outside and I have a little, I think it was like, yeah, it was an iPod Touch or something back then. And it was just like, shink, chink, 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 all over the place. Like, yo, we're under attack. Like, oh my God. This is just, I was sitting here talking too, like, man, all these dudes in a concrete building over there, they just kind of chilling.
Oh, yeah.
Sleeping like babies.
Like babies.
I was like, I'm over
Never
here
even
putting
do
on
that
a helmet, trying to figure out how to get into that concrete building. But
Uh,
I just remember
So-
going up on the roof to drop my laundry and always making it a quick endeavor. Because you were
you
fully
dried your
exposed.
laundry on the roof?
Yeah, man. When we get back from patrol, like my shit would be so sweaty.
there
I'd
was
take
a
it
few
up. I'd
people
take it
that-
up on the roof. I'd lay it out so
okay.
it'd dry off. So I remember go up there and throwing it out, dry socks and my combat shirt and stuff.
Yeah,
And then I run back
we hung it in the
downstairs
kennels. We just hung it on the
on the top part
chain
of
link
the kennels.
fence.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
But I
Okay.
did see y'all go up there, and I was like, yo, it's crazy.
Oh,
I mean, I made quick work. It's like you were exposed.
Look,
Well, there
what would
was
you have done
somebody
if you
up
got
there that-
shot hanging up your laundry, man? Like,
That's
Hey,
bored.
we done made up a cool story.
It's just bad luck.
how
Well,
are
yeah,
you
we
gonna
made up a
tell
cool
your
story.
family that in the hospital in Germany?
We-
Like,
you know
well,
what?
I had to get my
could've-
socks dry.
We could have put
I need
it.
a,
We could
I'm
have said
gonna
he was
need a,
one of those
Archon
like
beat for
guitar. Like he was up
Yeah.
there playing the American national anthem, and then he just
Yeah,
took
exactly.
one,
Yeah, exactly.
got shot in the
ricocheted off the
buttocks.
guitar. And
Jesus
But I'm
Christ,
saying-
man.
I was just trying to bring democracy to Afghanistan, one dried sock at a time.
Well, I hit this driver off the top, man. And it took a hard
Oh, yeah,
right
they were
turn.
Yeah, they were shooting golf balls. I think they would shoot golf balls off the top of your Connex.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had a little mat
Uh-huh.
there
Mhm.
one day. I think I saw it. And I'm like, what is this? And they're like, oh, yeah, they got golf balls up there. And I'm like, I'm not hitting golf balls up there. Like, that's just
At-
not
at
a smart
night,
idea.
at night.
At night, covered
Right.
in Kim-like goo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was always
Just
the
get out
thing.
there and start whirling it.
Yep.
Mhm.
Marking targets for the Kiowas, the golf balls.
Oh, I know, right? Just coated up here. Oh, we should have done that in the middle of like some stupid stuff at night. Just coated the golf balls like they were a neon grenade, and just found like just woo. Pray that you hear somebody on the other side like, oh no.
Marking targets with neon golf balls.
There you go. So when did you find out that you were actually going to have to integrate with this documentary crew and start working with them?
Well, it was actually right when I got to Masum Ghar.
Okay.
They rolled into our little bee hut there, fast helmets and bearded out and everything. And I didn't see any cameras. So immediately I'm like, who do you need? Or, what do you need? And when they turned and they were like, well, we're the guys from Animal Planet. And I'm like, it's nice talking with you. I turned around and I went straight back to my bunk. And I was like, I don't want any part of this. Like, it's just not my cup of tea. Well, then all of a sudden my little sheet come flying open and they were like, well, they're here for you.
Oh man.
What? And
What
they
were
were
you
like, yeah,
thinking?
we're here. We're told to find a Sergeant Anderson. I'm like, oh man, that's me.
You can't hide when they call you out by name, buddy.
I know, man.
Right.
And so it just started right then. He just, I mean, the dudes were cool.
Yeah,
they were just doing their
awesome
job.
dudes.
But
the dudes were
yeah.
pretty sweet, man. Yeah, they're pretty cool.
yeah,
but,
it just, I mean, they wanted to
Because
hang cameras on everything.
that was kind of the thing. And what was going through your head, man? Like when they came down and they tracked you down specifically, what were you thinking?
Well, what the hell did I do? I was like, what did I do to do? Like, of all people, if you would have known me prior to that, I would have been the last person you chose for that. Just because I had the worst mouth. You know, I was pretty much known for being kind of an asshole as it was. Not exactly like TV smile friendly when I'm doing my job. And
Right. As most people aren't.
right. And
Really?
they came in and they called my name. And I'm just looking at them like, who told you? Like, where did this come from? It's senior chief. I'm like, God almighty. Same dude that sent me out here. And yeah, from there, it was a matter of, you know, I stressed the importance of you will not get in the way of, you know, me or my brothers, you know, conducting operations. You're not going to, like, if I feel like you're hindering us in any type, I will cut it. And you can walk back on your own.
And I'll tell you, man, they held their own. I mean,
they did. They did. Well, I knew
they were
the
fit
Marine
guys. They were both veterans. One of them was like a former Marine, like machine gunner, like
right. And so he sent him out there to me, and we got to talking and filming. And I mean, he was pretty, because I think his prior service kind of allowed him to know when to interject and when to sit back and you know, do all that good stuff. So
I mean, I remember on the patrols that they were on with us, like I wouldn't even know that they were there. Like we'd come back from the mission, I'd be like, "You were with us?" Like, yeah, we were. He was chilling in the back. I was like, "Wow, okay."
Well, he did. I think they relied a lot on GoPro because they didn't really, you know, the only crazy live footage they got was just so happened to be with them, you know, when they got blown up and they were looking over my shoulder.
Standing right behind you.
Right. So,
I mean, it's also worth noting, like this, the directive for this project came from very, very high in the military. Like whoever sponsored this had several stars on their shoulders.
I don't know who it was.
I have no idea who it was, but because you know, Captain Kitching tried to push back against taking those guys out on our patrols. Like Colonel Rutherford tried to push back on taking those guys on patrols.
Like, I didn't want.
Nobody
I
wanted them there.
attempted to get them out of the way, and they just
but somebody really wanted them there.
And I mean, he did. Like I said, he did a good job. And there was only once where I looked over, and he was like, I don't know what he was doing. Maybe it was like 50 meters away to the right, nowhere we've been walking. Looking over this like concrete wall, videotaping some local villagers, and I just start sharing. I'm like, what? What the hell are you doing over there? And he's like, oh, I wasn't paying attention, man. I got off track. And I'm like, let's walk in the same footsteps you walked to get out there and over back to me. Come back to me. And when, you know, we had to start our patrol again, but.
Well, and that's a good point to clarify. Nobody had any issues with Craig, and I can't remember for the life of me the sound guy's name.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah. So the two dudes were awesome. They listened. They did everything we wanted them to do. I never felt like they were in our way. I'm glad they were there, especially the day that you were there. Like, I think it was the bigger project. The idea of like we're gonna inject this into your operations. And
well, see, here's my thing about it too. I always wondered this: how does a cameraman who caught all that footage and did the stuff he did, like, how does that not become a story?
You know,
how many cameramen have you known that have done some crazy stuff like that, picked it up? And just, it amazes me that no one has been like, hold up. There's like cameraman of the year or some crazy stuff. Like, there ain't nobody doing what he did.
I think, you know, and we'll, you know, we talked about this a little in the pre-interview, is that I think part of that is because when the documentary came out, it didn't do so great.
No.
It had nothing to do with the performance. As anybody who's ever been in a TV show will know, nothing that you see is real. Because because the camera guys get there and the audio guys get there and they pass it off to the editors and the producers, and they create this thing that's completely different than what actually happened.
Yeah.
So Craig busted his ass. He did all these amazing things. He helped save your life. But at the end of the day,
to this day, we talk all the time.
Yeah, he's a great dude. But at the end of the day, like, the documentary didn't do well because the producers fucked it up.
And you could tell when I watched it, like, I would be talking to my family in one segment and then click to another one. And I'm like, whoa, that was not anything to do with that.
Right.
This was a completely separate incident. So
it
was.
I think that's part of it. Also, because that part of the documentary was at the very end. Well,
that gave them everything.
It did. Yeah, I mean, otherwise, no offense,
right?
It would have been a boring documentary.
If that wouldn't have happened, I mean, it was crazy because it was almost like that was their savior. That if somebody didn't get hurt, blown up, or something crazy, they weren't going to get the content they needed.
No, and I think you were saying that they were worried just before that mission happened that they didn't have enough content.
Yeah, that's what he told me. He goes, "We need to get out in this area more because we've heard about the area, blah blah blah." And he's like, "The guys over in Helmand have been there for 6 weeks and just like, yeah, they're fighting and stuff, but they're not going out. They're not getting footage. We've been here a week and you've already had like IEDs and freaking stuff blow up over here and people trying to pick you off." I'm like, this isn't normal? Like, I thought this was normal.
It felt normal at the time.
That right. Like, I swear that I was looking around and I'm like,
these guys don't seem worried.
Right. Like, everybody else is just kind of going about their day. I mean, I go about my day. Thought this was normal. And they're like, no, man, this is not going on in other places. Oh, I didn't feel like I'm really fighting.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you really weren't. But
right.
It's just like, yeah, I didn't realize that we were so lucky.
Is that the word?
I think, well,
it's a word for it.
It's a word.
So we will now bring our audience to the apex of the story, which is the day that you found an IED.
The day I found out where the Taliban was hiding.
You found out where they were hiding one.
And they was on a moped.
Yep. So
that's the only
that morning you went out with 3rd Platoon, which was Lieutenant McGrath and his men, and into an area called Panjwai, which up until that point was generally
fairly safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was close.
I mean, we'd been in dozens of times to Panjwai, maybe get a pop shot here or there, if even that. We had not hit any IEDs in Panjwai before. They had a really big civilian population, which kind of generally keyed away from having the IEDs in the ground. So can you tell us a little bit about...
Correct me if I'm wrong, weren't they all gone that day?
I'm not sure. I wasn't out there, so I don't...
I don't remember.
Yeah. These are the worst people to ask.
Were you out there, Luke? Why were you out there?
Probably getting shot at somewhere else.
Yeah, more likely.
What do you remember about that day? Like the lead up to that mission? And I know you said it's not much, so maybe it's...
No, it's not, man. The whole blast and everything, that whole day is just a blur of bit and pieces. It's really weird. Like, I remember thinking the same thing we were all thinking, like, what the hell are we doing? Mm-hmm. Because I think it was like the first day of Ramadan. And Captain Kitchen was dead set on, hey, we're not going to lack off just because it's Ramadan. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Like, it is what it is. And so we weren't exactly thrilled about the mission, but at the same time, I mean, y'all know how we were doing it every day. Mm-hmm. So what's another day? And, man, I don't remember much at all except for what I've seen in the videos of how I was told of what happened.
Sure.
And I remember, well, like doorbells now, I didn't think I would ever have a problem with doorbells, but as of late, like doorbells, just that loud ping, I still hear it. Right now. It never went away.
Was that just a sound that you heard when the blast went off?
Yep.
Interesting.
It was, I literally, I heard ping, like loud doorbell, kind of like your ears are blown and, you know, you have that ringing.
Okay. Yeah.
Very similar to that, but just all at once.
Sure.
And I remember feeling I was like floating in air kind of like uncontrollably.
That's because you were.
And thinking, well, I was, yeah. But I was blacked out. Like I can't tell you any specifics or like if it was real. And I remember kind of thinking, oh shit, like you just got hit.
Yeah.
What the hell? And it black. It was nothing.
Yeah.
And so I remember shortly after that, I remember the helicopter blades and, you know, all that good stuff. That's it.
So just a bunch of like little bits and pieces for a while. Yeah. When did you like kind of regain full consciousness and kind of awareness of your situation?
Bro, it was like 2 weeks later.
No shit.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe I say that in Texas, when I woke up in Texas is when I finally was like lucid, completely lucid, and was processing what had happened to me. And, but I was talking apparently in Afghanistan and in Germany, and I was trying to like take people's Gatorades. I was talking on the phone to my wife at the time, and I don't remember any of that. But they were like, "Yeah, dude, you was awake the whole time." Okay,
that's incredible.
So I know, really weird, right? How I don't remember it, but I wasn't in a coma, if you will.
So like a fugue state or something.
Yeah, I woke up. The very first memory in the States, I woke up on, I think it was Andrews, and we were on medevac plane headed back to San Antonio. And I woke up and I remember the captain and the major were sitting there talking about their golf game. And it was hot. It was so hot. Probably because I was burned up.
Sure.
Not because of the weather. And I remember looking at him and I was like, who gives a fuck? Get us the hell out of here. It is hot. And then all I remember was a woman coming over and going, "It's okay, sweetheart." And we'll sleep. Just, we're going to shut him up now. Then I woke up in Texas and I was like, okay.
Wow. So to kind of fill in the gaps of the broken memory, I mean, so you guys were walking on a path just in the general vicinity of Pai Maluk, and what I believe the consensus is it was a command wire IED. So it was remotely detonated, but not remote control. It was like a wire that ran to it, buried deep under that path. And it went off a couple feet in front of you, launched you back probably 15, 20 feet. And you landed on the path with severe, it was pretty much all hand trauma, right?
Well, I don't think they knew of the hand trauma yet because of the gloves.
Okay.
I was still squeezing my hands and whatnot in the video. So it was more, the immediate thing was my femoral.
Okay.
That was the immediate, the camera guy had to grab it, pull it out, you know, do his thing, clamp it off until the guy could get there to put the tourniquet on. And, that's how I guess I lost 6-9 inches or something out of that whole vein.
Wow.
So they took it from my shoulder and put it down there. So I'm assuming that was the immediate. My legs, pretty much my knees to my hips, were blown wide open.
Yeah.
Thank God for that combat diaper.
That thing's the real deal, man.
Dude, I remember they handed it to us when they first came out, and we were all like, what is this? Like chafing, everything else. And then I get to Sperwan Ghar, and I don't see anybody without it. I was like, yeah, well, let's go and put this thing on. I think these guys know something I don't. I'm going to wear this now. And yeah, I'm really happy about that.
So most of the wounds initially then were the ones they were most concerned with were on your lower body then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I had hands on the leash, hands on the weapon, hands on the leash.
Sure.
And so, you know, hands were kind of right there by my thighs.
Yeah.
And they all kind of took the brunt of it.
That's one thing I do remember from that video actually was your weapon was just busted. The pistol grip was sheared off. And that's...
They said that the muzzle was like bent in half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was fucked
Decimated.
up. So if your hand is on that thing, I mean, it's the same thing
Yeah,
that
it was
happened
on
to both Clark and Jay. Their hands were on their weapons, and their hands caused the weapon caused some of their worst trauma.
Yeah.
Tom Evans' weapon hit him in the face in a blast. Like, this thing that you carry that's supposed to be your greatest defense, depending on the situation, actually ended up causing some of the worst injuries in deployment.
Well, they couldn't figure that out too, because a lot of people were like, "Man, you had your fingers in the video. Like, it doesn't make sense that you don't." I'm like, dude, I don't know what was under those gloves when they cut them off.
Right.
Like, I could have been moving just bone.
Yeah.
But
well, and especially hand wounds are so tricky. I mean, as you know, you can't recover from that kind of trauma like you can a broken leg or even a broken foot. It's just
the feeling and dexterity is irreplaceable.
Yeah, I mean,
there's nothing on the human body that feels and that you can quote unquote replace that with.
Yeah.
And then like the first 2 months, I didn't even know what I had left.
Mm-hmm.
Because they couldn't unwrap them or anything. So I sat there with like 2 balls for like probably a good month after I'd already gotten there, and so about a month and 2 weeks or so, and I was just sitting there like, so what's left? And I would ask all the doctors like, hey, what's my hand situation look like? Oh, we don't know.
Yeah.
What? They were like, we haven't been able to take the bandages off since you got here. So that was a shaky day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was wild, man. When they took them off, I'm like, what the hell?
Because at that point, you still had both hands. I mean, they weren't in great shape, but you still had both, right?
Yeah, I had they did a skin graft to save the thumb,
and
they said if that didn't take, they were going to have to take the thumb, which basically would have been like both hands gone.
Right.
But now the left hand, I had 2 fingers left on it. Just it was hideous looking. I couldn't grab anything. I couldn't, I was going to get more out of a prosthetic than I was out of that useless thing.
Yeah.
So for me, it was easy. Like, I did a bunch of research. I walked into my therapist and I was like, all right, I got a solution. She's like, what's up? Because we were kind of putting it all together as we went, because most of the injuries were leg injuries.
Yeah.
So they were still way behind on dexterity stuff. And I walked in and I said, hey, I think I got it figured out, man. We're just going to cut it off. And they froze. And we're like, what? Yeah, it's just useless. So why are we going to keep it?
That shouldn't have been as much of a shock to them. I mean,
I know, that's what I thought too.
Yeah. That would have been one of my first gut instincts. Like, hey, man, with the way prosthetics are now, just fucking take it. I don't blame you at all.
You might, if it's useless. Now, if you have use, any bit of use out of it, keep it. Because you can't replace the feeling and all that. Right. Yeah, but she was like, well, let's go talk to the prosthetist first and see what he says. And, we'll take his advice. And I was in there for 5 minutes. And the dude's like, you want to play softball and lift weights and stuff again? Yeah, cut it off. Just go ahead and cut it off.
Yeah.
She was not expecting that answer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you make a really good point. I mean, War on Terror, 2012, lots of below-the-knee amputations, lots of leg amputations. Pretty much only people that were having arm and hand amputations also had leg amputations.
Yeah.
So you were a very unique situation where...
Well, they didn't even do leg, what do you call it, therapy.
Yeah.
I didn't even have leg therapy because they were so focused on everything else.
Now, did you break any of your legs, or did it just mess up it tore it up?
Mostly nerve damage, a lot of skin grafts. There's, you still can see the main tendon that operates my thigh, like it's exposed.
Sure.
And then most of my right knee, like the whole inner part of it, it's all the way down to the bone. So pretty much like you can knock on the bone right there. So it's that, and then it just most of it turned into blood flow issues. I was going to lose the leg up by the hip because they lost blood flow, but then they found it. I had like 17 wound vacs, which blew their mind when I rolled into the Texas hospital, I guess. And
surprised they didn't send you to Walter Reed with that much.
Because of the burn unit. That's the only reason why.
Oh, okay.
And that's what changed the arm prosthetics down there. Because I went to the Center for the Intrepid. It's mainly geared towards legs.
Yeah.
They have an upper extremities department, but it was bare bones, if you will, or just getting started. And when I went to Walter Reed on a TDY doing something, and I went to their hand department, I was like, whoa, hold up. What is all this?
Yeah.
And I went back to Texas and basically was like, you guys got to catch up. You're going to catch up, or you're going to send me TDY and pay me a whole bunch of money to get up there and get some of this stuff. And they caught up pretty quick. And then go figure, I'm like the most basic prosthetic user ever now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, how has that affected your ability? I mean, you plugged in a microphone and a USB port and headphones and stuff for this. So, I mean, you obviously become pretty adept with what you have, which is awesome.
Yeah. Man, honestly, every day is just a different challenge, depending on the pain and what you got to deal with. And some days you do it one way, some days you do it another. And, man, I don't really know. I think it's just you're forced to just deal with it in that situation.
I mean, you were back playing softball and lifting weights and doing everything you said you wanted to do.
Get back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, back to it and eventually.
Well, yeah,
but
it wasn't like
some stuff's a little like playing golf right now. I'm learning that and doing pretty well at it. But that's the hardest sport I've played so far.
That makes sense.
Funny.
Yeah,
I know, right? Like it's the craziest thing. But when I get done after like 9 holes, I'm just looking at my hand and everything, and I'm like, oh, can we play softball? This is way harder.
I mean, can they set it up where you just like have a driver that you just attach to your socket, so you just do that, or I mean, is that is it really it?
We came up with it. Yeah, it's just. I swear to God, it is as simple as you think. I called the guy that makes all the attachments, and I said, "Hey, man, listen, I got an idea. Just please do this for me. I don't have a machinist that can do it." He's like, what do you need? I said, well, I want to stick a shank down into the end of a golf club. And then I want the hydraulic hose just coming out the end with a screw on it so I can screw it into my arm. And he's like, well, the science behind that, I was like, I don't care about the science. Just please make me this thing. I need it like 2 inches with a big old shank on the end of it. Okay, cool. So he made it, sent it. I stripped the thing off the grip off the golf club. I glued it down in there and I re-gripped it. There we go.
Nice.
It works. The only thing you got to worry about is if it slips out or, the club head or something. But other than that, man,
you just give it a good drive and it goes about 100 yards with the ball.
Right. Hey, I did. One of the first ones, I guess the glue had not completely seated.
Oh, yeah.
And I work for the Fallen, a nonprofit organization, and we were putting on a golf tournament. And I'm on like the first tee box talking shit because a buddy's there, and I'm like, man, you ain't seen this thing. Like I had this on the driving range. Y'all about to be embarrassed. I get up there and I'm like, boom! I hit the ball, and the whole club goes flying all the way behind me. It goes in the lake of the next hole.
Yeah.
Like up by the green, it's just floating in the lake, like a $400 brand new Cobra driver they gave me. And I'm like, oh, shit. I got some guy to go fish it out with his little ball thing and just hand it to me. I'm like, well, I guess she's done for the day.
It's like
go glue her back together.
It's like Chubbs and Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, man, yeah. I got the gator.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? I know what just went through your head, man. I got the Taliban guy that took your hand.
Man.
I got a gift for you.
Oh, Jesus. I won't do that to you.
I
saw how it ended in the movie.
I know, right? Like, I wouldn't know what to do. I'd look at him like, shake your hand or wait, no, I don't want to shake your hand.
Hey, let me see your hand.
Let's do it in elbows. We do an elbow, let's dap it up.
Oh, man. Now you were also had the privilege of adopting Ozza at some
I
point
did,
during your
man.
recovery. When was that able to go through? Because she was messed up too. You were saying.
Yeah, she had her whole demeanor changed. I mean, she was a real spry, spunky, older but young mentality type dog. She had a prior history of dogfighting and being kind of overly aggressive. I didn't really have those issues out of her. So maybe, I don't know, maybe she matured or whatnot, but she still had it in her. And I swear, man, after the hit, when she came to visit me in the hospital, it was like her eyes had glazed over. Obviously, I'm sure she had some eardrum issues, and she would work just because she knew that's what she was supposed to do. But if I was anywhere within the vicinity and she knew it, she wouldn't do it nothing. Period. She was, I got to get over there to him, lay down next to him, do whatever. I got to see him at least, but she wouldn't do it. She would just find her little happy place in a corner somewhere, and just as long as she could see or hear, she was sleeping. So, yeah, it's weird. I don't know if maybe because what was also really weird was when she visited me in the hospital and she smelled my wounds and stuff, which obviously, they can smell from a lot. I swear when she did for the first time, I saw everything in that brain just churning. Yeah. Like she had smelled it before, and it took her right back to that spot where she was like, oh my God. And once I saw that, I was like, ooh, you're really paying attention to what's going on right now. That's not really like, normally you'd be all happy feet and running around going nuts, but she was different.
Was it a significant process to be able to adopt her, or was it pretty much automatic? I mean, where they were just like, yeah, done. Because I imagine
verbally they were pretty much like it was automatic.
Good,
done. You got hit with the dog. Dog's going to become yours. They did know my personality. I mean, if that was a 2-year-old dog in the middle of the fight, I wouldn't take him out unless he had to be out.
Yeah,
it's just I love the dogs, but if I know that dog can go over there and save lives, why roll the dice and try to get another dog that maybe can do it? But didn't, she was old. They, she'd obviously had some PTSD issues related, especially to the gunfire, that we could use in the video in order to justify retiring her. And so basically, you got to kind of make a video that shows the digression, if you will, and some of the performance, and the age and everything kind of takes into account, and then it just goes through a process. Goes to Lackland actually, and they review all the videos, and as long as it's done in the right manner, in the right order, the way they deem, it's just a paperwork issue then.
Yeah.
So
how long do you have to wait?
Maybe 6 to 8 months after I got out of the hospital. So it was
it's a pretty decent wait.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, the process is not fast.
Yeah.
It's at least, you get them back, you get all the vet stuff done a couple of weeks, then you get, you acclimated for a couple of weeks. They can't train or do anything. Then you run them through the test. Then they watch it down at Lackland along with every other dog that's trying to get retired out of the military, and, go through that whole process. So typical military, it's just
bureaucracy
process that probably isn't as fast as it needs to be, but always takes time.
I mean, I feel like at that point it should be like you said, it should be automatic. Like you got hit with the dog. Granted, the dog should.
When I went back to the base, the commander, I had my own Belgian Malinois that didn't like other dogs, and he was a beast. Yeah. So I had to find a place for him to stay, and the commander was like, "All right, while you're back in Alaska, dog's yours. I deem her quote unquote retired. She's not going." So she came home for a couple of days.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Then I had to take her back, but. So it was unspoken rule, but just had to go through the formalities.
Sure. Yeah. And that time that you had with her after mean, how did that help your recovery, both, physically and, mentally?
Probably, man, it's hard to put into words because it's a lot of unspoken bond, if you will. I think it's just the stress of, or just not want to say stress, but wrong word, comfortability of having someone there.
Mm-hmm.
That it's kind of like we talked about when you talk to other veterans and you get this like euphoric high because you haven't in a while, or you hadn't shown that side of yourself in a while, and that's usually your most confident, take charge type self. You had it sitting right down there below you, and they just couldn't speak. Right. Plus, more or less, she probably saved my life that day. Mm-hmm. So, I owed it to her to give her about as comfortable a life as I could, all the way out, because had I not stopped walking to let her finish whatever she was smelling at the time, I might have been right on top of it.
Yeah.
So, even though she'd worked her way around it, done her thing over there and, tunneled in, whether she hit the odor or not hit the odor, however you want to look at it, I still stopped in my tracks to let her smell.
Yeah.
So,
because you were close enough to get serious wounds, but you weren't on top of it. So you didn't lose a leg, you didn't break any bones in your legs, which is, to me, stunning.
Yeah,
and kind of
me too.
A fascinating,
broke my arm. I did break my arm.
Broke your arm, yeah. It definitely messed your arms up for sure. Which, it just kind of, in my mind, I'm seeing how that V of the blast would come up. Same. And you had to be so close for your legs to be safe, but your arms not to be.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's just to me, it's wild.
Yeah.
Even me, in the hospital when I was trying to process the blast.
Yeah.
I was the same way. I was like, how did that happen? But how did I not lose? I'm trying to run it through in my head, and I'm like, this don't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
If I'd have been on top of it the way it did, it would have came from underneath me. Probably would have killed me.
I think most likely.
Yeah.
Or you would have lost both your legs.
Right, but to be so close to where it hits me knees up,
mm-hmm.
and it don't get Ozza at all.
Because she was past it, right? She was
right. She was on the she was on the other side. But still, you'd have figured something would have got her shot otherwise. Or
again, I think it's because it was so deeply buried.
You might be right.
I think it's just because all the force went up. There was hardly any outward force. You can even see that in the video.
The berm helped with some of it, but it was the same way. I was like, man, this don't make sense. How somebody screwed up when they planted this thing?
Fucking Jamal, god damn it!
Right, damn it, Jamal. I actually had a buddy, a handler, that was he went out there. I don't know if y'all would have stood out there. I think it had been the next rotation, and he's like, dude, I walked right through your blast site.
Really?
And he's like, I saw the crater, everything, months later. It's nuts.
Yeah,
he goes,
wow.
That was big.
The big explosion.
It was a big charge, man.
Yeah. See, I hadn't experienced. You guys are over there experiencing all these things. For me, it was one of my first close encounter blasts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, you got to put it in context.
I was like,
So in Panjwai context, it was a huge dismounted IED.
Yeah.
And the Grand Global War on Terror, no, tiny. But 20 pounds of Panjwai is a big IED.
Yeah.
That was a big one for us, man. When I've only seen the video once, but then I went back and kind of scanned through some of the footage. Didn't watch it because I can't watch it.
Yeah.
To be honest, but I watched that initial blast and I was like, damn it was a big fucker.
That's what I was. I guess I just hadn't anything to base it on, but like you said, we thought we were in a normal situation with all the stuff we were going to, and then you talk to other people around the way, and it's like, this is not normal.
Yeah.
So I didn't think nothing of it, especially considering the first few we found. That's what I found eerie, was that we had been all over the place in that little area for 4 days or 3 days or however many. Ran across 3 different IEDs, possibly 4 on that first patrol, that we just, the tanker lieutenant, he's just like, yeah, okay, we're just not going to go that way.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
So possibly 4, and then they were all passive pressure plates.
Yep.
And then we switched to a massive dismounted
Command
controlled
wire.
like
Yeah.
what gives? Like why the sudden change in tactics? What happened that
The only thing I can think is that road, it was a fairly wide road, so maybe they thought at some point they would catch like an A&A Humvee out there.
Maybe,
or one of the Rangers.
I mean, the
because
fact that you talked about being buried deep, and I suspect that it had been there a while.
Yeah, probably.
It
Could have
my
been.
guess. They
Yeah.
just buried it.
well,
waited.
especially the way they were running out, just throwing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what we were finding. They were just throwing 9 volts. You know, okay, but 9 volt to here. Who knows how long it's been there?
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
So
I suspect that what probably happened is they probably buried it and waited, and when they saw the opportunity when it arose, and they acted on it.
yeah,
It's probably a good guess.
that was
Probably a good guess.
it was wild because it was finding the first like 2 or 3 and dealing with just the pressure. I was like, okay, I could this sucks, but I could work with this. Like I could make something work with this. Man, you can't work with those.
No.
You're screwed.
Yeah. It's just some dude just pushing a button.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then, going over, looking at the video when they were arguing about which way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Do we go left or do we go right? Do we got main road? Do we go ditch? Once we kind of figured out where we were as on hardpack, we were like, all of us were like, yo, bad idea.
Yeah.
But let's get out of here, and it's too late.
I mean, and I can't really fault them for being on. I mean, we would be on hardpack for 15, 20 feet at a time too. I mean, sometimes it's the choice you make to go a short distance down a road and then you get off of it. It's part of that unpredictability, right? Like, so you're not always not on the roads, and you're not always on the roads. If you mix it up a little bit, it kind of makes it a little bit harder for them to know what you're doing. But man, sometimes it's just
I mean,
it's just set up, and it's today's your day.
They have a choice. Yep. And I mean, the way we were going with that, I mean, we knew how the sporadic fire was, which we had taken. It was either to push you or pull you, and that was to push.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe we should have pulled, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And I mean, that moment kind of became the apex and the climax, or whatever you want to call it, of the documentary.
Yeah.
I mean, and it aired on Animal Planet. It aired on, it was syndicated on all kinds of other stations. You did interviews on Fox and CNN and all these places. I mean, and they played that video over and over.
Yeah,
I mean,
over.
What was it like to do this promotion for this documentary, and then knowing that millions of people watched this happen to you? Like this very personal moment for you, and you had to share it with the entire fucking country.
Yeah, I didn't really have too much of a choice on it. Looking back on it, I so much believed in what I was doing, and the routes and the decision I was making and the choices. Man, I never gave it a second thought. Like, I'm really at peace with it. I mean, I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I still get frustrated and pissed off because I ain't got no hands, and I'm trying to, I don't know, tie my daughter's shoe or something.
Yeah.
But it's neither here nor there. I'm good with it because I was good. I was prepared to do whatever I needed to do over there to get it done.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so I think in the back of my head, I'd already kind of prepped myself to possibly not come back, or whatever.
Mm.
And so looking at it and still being here breathing and talking to all the people that, made it back that day. Everybody made it back that day.
Everyone did. Yep.
So
Lieutenant McGrath broke his arm, and that was the end of his deployment as well.
But he made it.
And he made it.
But he made it. So I'm good with it. Had you told me somebody had died or there was a secondary, and I'd probably have a lot of trouble with it.
Yeah.
Just because I would have felt like I didn't get the job done that day to do whatever.
Well, I'll say,
oh man, I mean,
I thought you were a phenomenal ambassador for the canine community, for the Air Force, for everyone that served in that area. Every time you showed up on an interview, or every time you sat down with somebody, we were definitely thankful that it was you out there kind of somewhat representing our experience. So I think you nailed it out of the park. I don't think I would have had the fortitude to sit there and watch that happen over and over and over again, and then talk to a reporter or an anchor about it. So
I just don't think anybody really grasped how much shit you guys are going through. I mean, that's where I was just like, I was like, yo, these dudes are out here. Y'all are talking about, oh my God, we can't believe you went out on a mission. You're going to have to go out and put it all. And I'm sitting over here like, I don't really care. Like, look at these dudes. Like, they're beat to hell. That, like, come on. So I think the fact that I thought about that every time I looked at everything, it just, it's peanut. It's just small things in my world compared to the grand scheme of things. So it's weird. I don't know, man. It's hard to say like how it really affects me emotionally because, especially considering how private of a person I normally am. Mm-hmm. I just felt like I owed it to you guys and I owed it to the career field to kind of put a good name out there for them because I did feel like that some of the canine guys and some of the career fields and some of the stuff we were doing weren't taken quite as seriously as it was. Meaning when we were asking about doing some specialized training or we were asking about not having to do as much of the, and it sounds bad, but people in the situation will know what I'm talking about. When you're not having to lead 15 people on top of your dog, on top of the flight chief running law enforcement on the base. And just doing a lot of different things that could take away from your combat training and possibly put other lives in jeopardy. I wanted someone to see how serious that was, like how much, because I talked about it before deployment, the fact that I was in Alaska, the fact that I had all these, walls in front of me, and you still go over there and get the job done just because it's what you got to do. But, for the commanders to see like, oh, we got a couple Air Force, canine guys going out. I didn't want them to look at it like it was just, they're going to Qatar or somewhere to search a couple, trucks. I wanted them to realize like these dudes really put the work in, so let's respect it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you were at every bit of a grunt as we were, walking the same patrols, doing the same job. And like I mentioned earlier in the interview, that wasn't something that was normal or asked of military canine handlers previously. It's a law enforcement field. It's not a they're not even breeding or training these dogs for tactical deployment except in special operations, and that's a completely different program. So you guys are kind of asked to fill a very unique role that had not really existed since probably the Vietnam War, really.
Yeah.
And
to be honest with you, it's funny you say that. There was a lot of feedback from the Vietnam dog handling community, if you will.
Uh-huh.
Really?
Positive,
Pissed.
I hope.
No.
Really?
No. So mad about the missions we were going on, about how we were going about, not like us.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The overall what we were doing. They were like, that is dumb. That's like, why are you just going out there to, like, they were just not happy with the presence missions that we were showing because they were like, man, you saw it on camera, just blow it up. Why are we sending people out there? Like, I don't get it. So that was their mentality going in. That was a lot of their feedback. They weren't happy of what they were asking the dog handlers to do. So,
I mean, it was a tough ask of you guys, man. I mean, we were trying to throw every single asset possible at keeping legs attached to bodies, man. Whether it was a dog,
we were going to bring in a little bulldozers.
Yeah,
the remote control bulldozers, and they wanted that to be in front of the dogs while we searched. And I'm like, what?
Yeah,
no,
that thing was a terrible idea.
Many pickles.
It was a horrible
that thing got us many pickles.
I mean, that
right.
and the dogs and EOD and engineers and
right.
All the. I mean, later deployments they even stopped using the military law enforcement working dogs, and they started giving infantrymen dogs, the TED program, and that was a nightmare. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that was a horrible idea.
Oh,
Recipe for disaster, for sure.
It was ugly.
Let's just give an 11 Bravo a dog like a month before his deployment. Because
I heard about this going down range, and I was still, I still couldn't wrap my head around what people were telling me. I'm like, wait, what? They're like, yeah, TED program, this, that. And I'm like, who's going out with these guys? I don't want to go out with these guys.
Well,
I don't want a part of these.
I mean, a critical part of why you guys were so effective was that you could tell somebody no. If the commander said, hey, you have to go out on this mission, you can say, hey, I cannot take my dog on a 14-hour patrol. Like, I cannot do that to the dog. I don't have the resources to support it. The dog can't go on. No, I will not search that building with my dog because it's an unreasonable risk to my dog for no reward. But if you're a PFC,
or this glass like this, this thick,
right? But if you're a PFC and you just happen to have a dog, you can't tell your commander no. You're going to do it, and then you're going to get fucked up.
And we were preached that. Yeah. I mean, they told us, hey, you ultimately have control of this. You know, if you don't feel like it's safe, or you don't feel like, you know, you can make the call. You also will be labeled if you make that call, and it's not warranted. You have to use
it very sparingly.
Yes,
in the right scenario.
Because I mean, even me being a tech sergeant out there, subject matter expert, I couldn't just look at the LT and be like, "You're stupid. I'm going to medevac out of here." Like, just don't work like that. You got to, you know, you still.
Well, and I think that's the maturity there is you don't quit middle mission. You say, "Hey, this is not a mission that we can support," or I can't support a particular thing on this mission. Like, I'm not going to send my dog in blind into a gray putt to clear it, like that kind of thing.
Or I can't turn my dog around 6 hours later to go back out on another 15-hour mission.
Right. Right. So,
but you can. That's what I heard her going in. But you could.
You could.
Right.
You could. Whether the dog's worth the shit or not is a
question. Could, but I ain't gonna do it.
Right. So, Leonard, way we always close these things out is we kind of give you a chance to anything that we've kind of missed in the course of the interview that you would want to talk about. I noticed you're wearing the shirt for the charity support, so I don't know if you wanted to talk about that a little bit. But for the last couple minutes of the podcast, the floor is yours.
I'm not the hugest guy for, like, you know, saying a whole bunch of stuff, because I think, you know, short's always sweet, but I want to thank you guys, man. You guys are bringing this, you know, to the forefront and filling in A, gaps for me, giving me closure, and B, just even bringing that little euphoric high for a second, just talking to old vets about old work. You know, I mean, really, you have no idea. It goes so far into the grand scheme of things in the world. A 15-minute conversation can save someone's life for a week. Yeah. So you'd be shocked. And, you know, I do represent, I play softball and work with a nonprofit organization with For the Fallen. We do golf tournaments, and we're direct impact. We give a direct impact back. So there's no middleman. There's no, you know, if we see an issue that needs solved or helped with a veteran, we like to immediately find a way to get it solved. So you can always look them up. And then I always have my little red athlete here, softball guy, that we always get our some of our equipment and some of our apparel and stuff like that from. So I always have him out there, give him a little shout out. But really, man, I want to thank you guys for having me on, man. I enjoyed it. I can't thank you guys enough for putting up with me for a week in the middle of hell. And then coming to my couch in my living room in the middle of South Carolina. That's
yeah.
IED, man. IED. Yep. I can't.
That TBI.
Yeah, memories, all that good stuff.
Well, I'll tell you, man.
But no, seriously, man, thank you. I can't thank you guys enough. It's good to talk to you guys.
And thank you, man. And
same here.
Anytime, you know, you got our personal contact info, hit us up anytime. And we got the live episodes coming back up, so you feel free to join us anytime for a live episode. And
let me know, man. I would love to jump on every once in a while and just shoot the shit with you guys. It's fun, man.
It'd be a good time.
Hell yeah.
Definitely. I have to get my own little setup, though.
We need that one back.
I got everything on the good. I got to get the non-blown up side. I got a lazy side now.
Yeah.
This is what my friend's daughter told me the other day. She's like, "You got a lazy eye, Uncle Lenny." I'm like, I've never punched a kid, but I will.
I'll start with you.
I'll start with you. Like, damn it, Sydney.
All right, man.
So,
Well,
yeah,
thanks again for.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Panjwai Podcast. If you liked what you heard, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. New episodes every Monday on all major podcast platforms, Facebook, and YouTube. Visit www.thepanjwaipodcast.com for more information.